All right, hi everybody. You got me?
Yep.
Awesome. How's everybody doing on this nice Monday? We got some nice weather here in North Carolina and doing good. So I know it's been a long time since I have done a Demos with Dave episode, so I want to try and jump back into it and do some more. So I thought I'd start off tonight with a couple of samples that we're doing out of the latest 2025 Big Book catalog. These are two projects that we've spent extra time developing in engineering versus a standard locomotive or freight car. So when we have to do extra effort into projects like these, I like to show people what's gone into them and what makes them special. So the first one that I'm going to demonstrate tonight is the Pennsylvania S2 turbine steam locomotive. Now, the S2 turbine locomotive is not new to Lionel. This model was last done around 2015 or 2014. And obviously, we have a very storied history with the turbine in the post-war era. But we added some new features to make this one more realistic, as well as added in some post-war nostalgia for those that ordered the Lionel SKUs that kind of represent the post-war, like 671, that was in the catalog as well. So we'll go through some of those tonight and show you what we've come up with. So let me add my train camera to the stage. And I believe that's muted, so we shouldn't have dual dialogue. We're good? All right. Nice. So this is our S2. The Pennsylvania S2 is a 686 experimental locomotive from Pennsy. For those who don't know, this didn't have traditional cylinders like you would see on the side of steam locomotives. So this does not have chuffing when it moves. Instead, it's a turbine, which there's a turbine on each side of the locomotive. One is right here. And that would actually provide a constant steam pressure to the drive wheels, making it a relatively quiet engine, at least in terms of lacking chuffing sounds. And so we have one really big model. This is a heavy guy and a big locomotive for not being an articulate. And then also it had a very large tender with 8-wheel trucks. So this locomotive in size compares to some of the smaller articulated locomotives that I've seen. We've also added some detail to this engine. So before I start it up to go over the features, let me just grab the camera and I'm going to go around the engine just to show some of the detailing. On the front of the locomotive, we do have, an opening smoke box door along with the pilot. There is a scale dummy coupler that can be raised and lowered here. And then we have, the headlight, the bicolor markers. And then we have 4 stacks up top. These are fed by a single smoke unit. And then we did add quite a bit of detailing here. I'm just trying to control the camera. We added some extra detailing up and down. The switches are located here underneath the sand dome in the front of the locomotive. So it's a magnetic hatch. So you do have your run program, Bluetooth on and off, or Bluetooth 4-digit, as well as switches for the stack smoke and the whistle steam. So we move the switches up there like we're trying to do on all of our legacy steam and diesel now. That way you don't have to flip it over when you're trying to program it or control it otherwise. There's also a removable hatch here under the steam dome. Now this is to fill the smoke unit for the whistle steam. Since it had to be a separate unit from the stack, since it's located further back in the locomotive, it did have to have an auxiliary fill port, and so that's where it's at, underneath the steam dome there. This does have firebox glow underneath, lights that are connected to the motor. So when the engine's moving, you will get that glow, red glow, indicating a fire burning in the firebox. Another item that those who have purchased Legacy Steam lately may have noticed is we are now adding the drop plates to all locomotives, all steam locomotives. I don't have it up here, but you can see it kind of hanging there. So that's going to be one of the standard features going forward in Legacy Steam locomotives is a drop plate. That along with the switches up top, we figured those are two of the nice features to add to these really highly detailed and fun to play with models. And then this is the big tender that the turbine came with. Very sleek and not highly detailed on the sides as per the prototype. You do have some detailing behind the coal load. And then out back, we do have some markers in the rear light and obviously an electrocoupler on the rear end. So pretty cool locomotive. I'm liking it. But what I want to show is some of the work we've done surrounding the operations. So let me go ahead and I'm going to get out my Cab 3 app and start the engine up. And even though this one is obviously unpainted, it is programmed with the America Roads S2. You can see the image that automatically imports there. And so I will start the engine up.
Train 1 brakeman, let's get an application for continuity test. Good application. Okay to release. Train 1 brakeman, we have good set, good release, good continuity on timetable train number 1. Over. Yeah, that's Roger. Good set, good release, good continuity on timetable train number 1. Out.
All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is go through the whistles and the bells. And as always, this does have 5 whistles, 5 bells. So you cycle through them on the Cab 3 app by pressing aux 1 and then blowing the whistle. Can't be a Penske engine without the Banshee. And then I'll go through the bells as well. All right, so as I mentioned before, these are turbine locomotives. So you're going to get the sound of a turbine when the engine moves instead of the traditional chuff that you would be used to hearing in a steam locomotive. So I'm going to move it forward just so you can hear the turbine sounds as it moves. All right, now I'll stop it. Now, one thing many people might not know, and I mentioned earlier in the video, is that this engine actually has 2 steam turbines. And the larger one was for forward, and then it had a smaller one for reverse. So now I'll back the engine up, and you'll hear a different, more subdued turbine sound that mimics what the smaller turbine would sound like in the prototype. And so you can hear the difference in that it's a much smaller sounding turbine in reverse versus forward. And I'll go back forward again just so you can hear it. And Joey says it sounds like a jet plane. Yep, it's kind of what a turbine is. It does sound like a jet engine. Now, that was one of the new features we'd never done before, was making it have different turbine sounds in forward versus reverse. But we did take it one step further. This is a steam engine that we've done before, where people would call in and think that their engine was broken because it wasn't making a chuff, because it was a turbine instead. So instead, what we've done here is give the option to revert the locomotive back into chuffing. Now, for those of you that have the Base 3 and the Cab 3 app, or if you have the Cab 2 remote as well, all you do is you use the aux 3 key, and that will change the engine mode from turbine sounds into chuffing. And now you can hear more of a familiar sound as it comes to traditional steam locomotives. So when you move it, you'll hear traditional steam chuffing. And this is just for those that want to be able to show off the ability that, hey, it is a steam locomotive. I do want to hear it chuff. Or if you press aux 3, you're just going right back to the steam turbine sounds. The one thing to note is you did see the engine stop when I pressed aux 3. The engine does need to come to a stop to change its mode from turbine to chuff, and it will stop itself automatically to change the mode. And I'll back it up here. Back in chuffing mode. So yeah, we just thought those were some cool new features that we haven't done before in a locomotive such as a turbine, and it's an engine that, in my opinion, deserves the extra treatment. So one that we are very happy with, and hope everybody else will be happy with it as well. Check the catalog for other features. As I mentioned before, it does have whistle steam, it does have stack smoke, it does have the bicolor marker lights, and those can be accessed in the Cab 3 by holding down the aux 2 button. And when you do that, you do get a lighting menu for the engine. And that's where you can just tap through the on button to cycle from green to white, as you can see there on the screen, or just off if you choose. All right, so that's what I wanted to show for this locomotive. Kind of a quick review, but wanted to show the extra effort put into it. So I'm going to move it off screen so that we can go to our next sample that I want to demonstrate this evening. Let me shut that down. She's a loud engine. All right, this next one is not powered by itself, obviously, so I'm going to just move it into the screen. Now I have it facing backward so that you can see the flashing EOT light here. But this is the Visionline Autorack. We have done this large Autorack, obviously, before. I believe I first saw them way back 2013, 2014 timeframe. Let me hold the camera flat. And it is a very long car. It's definitely a car that works best on layouts that have the larger curves. 072 is about as small as I would push it in terms of overhang and just simple coupling with other cars. On this one, we have added the electronics to make this a Visionline product, and a lot of work put into the features of the car. The first thing I want to show, obviously you see the EOT light here, and these rear doors do open up. See if I can do it without looking at it. And to open this door, since the couplers are kinematic, you can kind of just pull the coupler to the side, open the door, and then let go of the coupler. And in there, if we can see, on the bottom level, you can just barely see it, but that's where the switches are. And so down there we have 3 switches. We have a run program, we have a min max, and then we do have one for lighting as well. There's also a plug on there that you can disconnect the EOT. So say you have multiple Vision Line Autoracks and you want to put one in the middle of a train, you can actually take the coupler off of, or I'm sorry, you can take the EOT device off of the coupler. And when you do that, it's just one little 2-pin plug on the inside on the same board where the switches are mounted. And so you just unplug that, undo the one screw from the EOT, and you can remove it right off the car if you choose. So that's what's in one end of the car. The other end of the car doesn't have anything in it, so you don't really have to open that end. But what I want to do is get into the fun of this guy. Now, this is meant to be, a Vision Line Autorack that represents a series of sequences where you would load and unload real-life automobiles. The basis of this started as basically the Vision Line reefer car, which, you have load produce, unload produce, you have multiple stops. And so that's what we've replicated here with, the initial destination, having the crew load cars on it. And then you move the car about with the train. It knows that it's moving. And when you come to multiple destinations, you hit the unload button, and that's when you get your unload sequences. So I'm going to play some of that real quick, just so you hear what it sounds like. And so here's the loading.
Hey, Johnny, raise that drop plate so we can move the ramp. Make sure to leave room for the priority vehicles on the top level. Okay, send her off. This shift is scheduled to break in a few anyway. Yeah, these are the 25 priority cars. They need to be moved first. We got room for 3 more in there. Alrighty then. This one's going to the staging yard.
And there are more variety there as long as you're loading. And then when you move the car, so say the train pulls it, and you can hear the rail sounds or the freight sounds as the car is moving. So you get your clickety-clacks and your bangs. And now we're at our next destination where you want to unload those cars. This can kind of be, it's usually a middleman where cars are unloaded and loaded. And so you have your choice of those different scenarios based on if you're pressing the load or unload button. So now that we're here, we're going to unload the automobiles.
Let's get these trucks unloaded. Make sure that car's empty before we close it up.
Okay, boss.
Let's see how this one does in 4-wheel drive.
And all I'm doing is holding down the load or
Did you
unload
check the
buttons.
waybill? Is this one supposed to even be here?
And as long as you're holding that button down, the sequences keep playing. Or you can just press it once to get one sequence.
Did you check the waybill? Is this one supposed to even be here? Great job, all. Dinner's on me tonight. I'm just kidding. Get your own dinner.
That's rude. Now, one thing you'll notice is that at the different stops, the initial, the intermediate stops, and then the final stop, you will have a different foreman or crew. Because in real life, you would too, right? I mean, there's not going to be one guy loading and unloading and then hopping on the train, riding it across the country. So we do have different voice characters for the different destinations. And then so you move the car once again, and you can finally come to your final destination. Not to be ominous.
Yeah, these are the 25 priority cars. They need to be moved first. Keep them coming. Okay, send her off. This shift is scheduled to break in a few anyway.
Yeah, and so that's kind of the standard sequence of the actual loading and unloading of the freight or automobiles in this car. But we took it another step further. We wanted to simulate there being actual automobiles in the car without actually there being automobiles in the car. So one way we did that is on your horn, you do have 5 different car horns. So instead of a locomotive horn, you have car horns. So I'm going to go through those real quick. And they're again changed just by pressing the aux 1 key. And then the bell as well. So the bell for this car is actually the sound of arming the alarm system on the automobiles. And there's 5 of those as well. Again, you cycle through them using aux 1. What? This was a fun one for us. All right. This car also does have a front electrocoupler. So not one here on the EOTN, but on the other end there is an electrocoupler. Now, lastly is the big feature, which is the impact sensor. So with this car there and the electronics inside, there is an impact sensor that can detect if the car takes too hard of a hit. Say you're coupling into the car and you just couple into it too hard. What it's going to do is it's going to set off the car alarms and the headlights and taillights of the automobiles that are inside the car, and the crew will complain about it. Now that mode is also manually settable by using the aux 3 key, so you can also set off the alarm sequence that way. But in this demonstration, I'm going to actually try and tap the coupler and show you the impact sensor of it. So I'm going to hold it at one end and just tap the car, and you'll hear and see the car alarms go off.
Wow, I'd really hate to see any of these cars get damaged.
And so that's how the impact sensor does it. And you can also, like I said, press the aux 3 key if you want to manually do it without tapping on your or hitting the car. Or you can get a kazoo horn. There's actually a time limit. So there's a 30-second time limit in between impact events. This way, if your car's going down the track and going over bumps and the like, it doesn't trigger so many times that it drives you up a wall.
Great! Now these alarms are never going to stop!
Yeah, so I believe there are 8 cars simulated for the top level and the bottom level of this car that all have headlights and taillights. So I believe the total number of LEDs in this car is 37. So wanted to go a little over the top, but it was a very fun car to do. And so that's the car that we've been wanting to do for a while, and thought that it deserved the Vision banner given the amount of effort that we put into it. And proud and ready for that one to ship, along with the Pennsylvania S2 locomotive that also had a lot of effort that went into it. So I do appreciate you all joining me tonight on this episode of Demos with Dave, and I do want to get back into the groove of doing more. I have more engines that I want to show as time permits. You know, we have samples of the Vision Line Hudson, the Vision Line Commodore Vanderbilt Hudson that has the rippling effect on the side of the sheet metal, Jeep 38s and A6s, and just a lot of samples from the latest catalog, as well as stuff coming down the pipeline. So I will make sure that we have more episodes of Demos with Dave going forward and go over more samples. Now, before I log off for the night, I'm going to go back up through your comments and answer any questions I can. If you have any other questions, go ahead and pop them in the chat, and then I'll answer them if appropriate. I know how some of you can be. Travis asked if those were the final whistle choices. Yes, they were. That code has been sent to the factory so that those engines are ready to be built. Seth is asking, when will the Hudson release? Those are going to be later in the summer built, so it will likely be fall until they get here in the U.S. We're still having to go through and record the custom dialogue for those locomotives. Peter asked, will the Pennsylvania S2 have the correct marker lamps location? That answer is yes. The marker lights did change, as well as the color. I believe some of them had red and amber instead of, like bicolor. And so that's going to be specific to the engines as they're built. You might want to refer to catalog art on that. Let's see if we got it there. Peter also asked, would you make Autoracks with just the EOT? That's not out of the question. These Autoracks always do well, which is surprising to me given how huge they are. But let's see what comes in the future, and you'll likely see more Autoracks coming back. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. I appreciate you logging on tonight. And if you're watching this later, still appreciate you watching it. And I will be back in the future with another episode to show off more samples. And in the meantime, keep chooching. Keep chooching. Keep chugging away. Let's go with chugging away. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.